Today our conversation will be on the Nigerian agriculture sector. So much has happened in recent times, but that question, like I said, on the minds of most, people who are looking towards, solutions regarding the agricultural sector is there a nexus between agriculture and economic development, and what can we do at a point such as now, towards growing the Nigeria's agricultural space? And my guest is the Managing Director of Sabore Group, Aminu Nyako, is right here with me. Thank you for joining us on Business Daily, and happy new month to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, you have heard my introduction, and one thing, like I said, that comes to the minds of most agri enthusiasts is, are we doing enough in the agri space? Because there's just so much, going on around growing the Nigerian economy. But then again, one thing that we have is, the geographical space. But then are we doing enough towards growing the economy through agriculture? Let's hear from you. What is, from your view, the current state of the Nigerian agricultural sector?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I think as a country, agriculture has always been the bedrock for what has made Nigeria great. Most people know that Nigeria has over 220 million population, enterprising young population of over 100 million, and we are blessed with land that can do so much. Most people over the years, because the world has been kind of trending away from agriculture, however, where Nigeria's comparative advantage lies is in the agricultural space. Most people don't seem to realize that Nigeria sits on maybe 6 of the 8 climatic zones of the world. They teach us in school, but they don't tell us the impact that kind of diversity can have on a nation's economy. We have the rainforest, mangrove, Sahel, desert, savanna regions, and each of these regions has the ability to grow possibly 80% of all food supplies in the world. And because of that kind of blessing, I think Nigeria has found it difficult over the years to specialize, to train, and to create the kind of impact that kind of diversity can have. So we're mainly masters of none, and we do everything else. We can produce everything, but we don't produce everything enough for such a great nation. I think now that Nigeria has started facing the kind of conundrums and challenges it's facing, it's important that the current administration actually looks keenly into looking at agriculture to become a premier driver of Nigeria's growth and GDP. And you would realize that in every other kind of sector of the country, you need a kind of specialization to be able to unlock value within it. Whether it be entertainment, you need talent. Whether it be science and technology, you need advanced education. Whether it be leadership and all these other things that primarily drive growth. Mining, you need to be on the soil. Petroleum, you need to have an oil well. Agriculture is the leveler that can actually, everyone, whether you're educated or not, whether you have disabilities or not, you can actually participate in agriculture, contribute your quota to your nation's development, and then ease everybody's challenges. And I think the current administration has declared a state of emergency last year for food security. It is my own hope as a private sector individual that they take the necessary action that depict a state of emergency to be able to start getting these gains in the economy.
Okay, you have talked about, the recent action by the government, talking about the state of emergency. And then we've seen quite a lot, happen lately, just as the donation of food from Ukraine to Nigeria, which gathered a lot of, mixed reaction. But then again, on the other hand, there's been a lot of policies also directed towards the agricultural sector. You are a key player in the dairy sector in Nigeria, and one of those we saw recently, I believe, was the removal of, the peg, do I say importation peg that was previously there towards importing, dairy product. So all of these policies, has there been, or would you say there have been in the right direction towards supporting local production in Nigeria? And if not, what would you say should be done at this point?
So I think in this regard, I think we must applaud the current administration for liberalizing our economy. I think liberalization of economy is a good thing. However, dairy's challenges has never actually been that. If we look at my industry, most Nigeria's cattle population is massive. We'll have over 30 million cattle as at 2021, which we know has grown right now. However, we've never been a dairy country. We're known for our beef, our hides and skin. What hampers dairy is not necessarily what is being addressed. Let me highlight that for you. You see, most people think the most perishable product in the world is tomatoes and all these other things. But tomato can actually stay 48, 72 hours without actual processing. Milk is actually the most perishable product because you need to cool milk, fresh milk from a cow, to 4 degrees within the first 2 hours of milking. Now, that in itself already poses a challenge. We know what our energy sector is and our energy infrastructure and how the grids have been collapsing. It means that if you do not have stable electricity, you can't actually have a viable dairy sector. You also realize that your cattle cannot move because once you create infrastructure for cooling, then that infrastructure is in place. And once it's in place, cattle cannot roam. So you now have a solution for your farmer header crisis that are moving. Nigeria as a country needs to have a Marshall Plan that takes all the varying factors into consideration for you to then tackle. The reason I'm saying this is we at Sebore took a very unique approach. We're in the Northeast, and you know the Northeast has been ravaged by insecurity for over a decade. So we could not look for any kind of messiah from outside the region to come and fix our problem. The people of the Northeast are livestock people. The people of Adama are cattle people. They understand cattle. They grew up with cattle. They understand milk. However, the enabling environment for milk to thrive was never put in place. So what Sebore decided to do as a group is, over the last 2 years, we built the largest fresh dairy processing plant in the country, and possibly one of the most unique dairy processing plants in the entire Africa because it's completely off-grid. It's being powered by solar and it's being powered by batteries. And we have collection centers spread across the 3 most prominent northeastern states, which is Borno, Adamawa, and Taraba. And we also have these collection centers also off-grid on solar and batteries. What this enabled our farmers to do is that now we have unburdened them for the capital investment and the infrastructure investment for their milk to become viable. And I'm so proud to tell you that over the last 2 years, there's not been one day the rural pastoral farmer has not given me milk. There's not been one day we've not collected milk. They earn income on a weekly basis. And it has shown me that when people are saying people are moving away from agriculture, a lot of people in the Northeast are moving into agriculture because the enabling environment for agro industry to thrive is being put in place by me as a private sector. For us to achieve scale, government actually needs to look at all the different value chains, from cocoa to rice, to milk, to livestock, to palm, to cassava, and truly look at what are the limiting factors of infrastructure that needs to be put in place for people to want to go into agriculture in a major way. This is it. So the current administration has liberalized FX in the CBN for dairy imports. That doesn't significantly impact me. The reason being, Nigeria as a country has to actually enter the mindset of competition. We're in a globalized setting. Our people are capable and ready to compete with the best of the world. We see them thriving all over the world in education, in entertainment, in culture, in high-tech, aerospace and technology. Nigerians all over the world are thriving and are competing. But when it comes to internal domestic policy, the last decade, we've been kind of trying to protect people because we're unsure of the Nigerian brilliance and capacity. For me, is you liberalize and you invest and you encourage Nigerians to move into a space. And I'm telling you from my own experience in dairy, we are more than willing to meet that challenge.
Okay, you've spoken, towards infrastructure and infrastructure development, and how you now, as a player within the private sector, is surmounting these challenges. So we have come to the understanding that there is indeed that interconnectedness, between agri and their economy. So moving forward, I'd like for you to speak to us, I'll say 3 top priority areas from your own point of view, not just towards the dairy sector now, but agriculture as a whole, that you would say that the current government, put in place was ensuring that there is that growth that we all want to see within the agri sector. We talked about the landmass, we have that, but then that is not being put into good use, or enough use, I should say. So what would you say are the low-hanging fruits that should be addressed as soon as possible?
So I'll speak from a very large heart, and I think with that kind of context, maybe people will be able to understand how to unlock value in the agricultural space and have agriculture become a leading driver for the country. You see, typically you have food crops. That is food that you can actually eat within the country and are staple crops. You have cash crops that people can eat directly: ginger, palm, cocoa. You actually have processing, and those are typically export crops. You have fruits, veg as a different category, and then you also finally have the mining and the rest. What you need to understand here is that each of these categories have strategies that you need to focus on to be able to fully unlock the value. If you look at cash crops, you need to have an export-driven model. If you look at food crops, you can't export food crops. No matter the amount of rice Nigeria produces, you will not export it because our local demand is so large that whatever investment you put in there, rice wouldn't give us forex, but ginger can, because local farmers can plant ginger and they have to sell it for them to derive the full value of it. The same thing as shea butter, the same thing as baobab, sesame. These are things that can unlock value for Nigeria, but a strategy, you can't have a uniform strategy across these different value chains. Take, for example, fruits. You see people hawking fruits outside. They tell you a watermelon in America, one watermelon in America is $15. In Nigeria, you buy one watermelon for $2, which is $1.50. It tells you that people in the US value watermelon more than us domestically. And for you to fully unlock the value of watermelon, you should be able to export watermelon to give you the kind of import credits that you require. Having said this within this context, every one of these agricultural commodities has 3 things that play a critical role in order for you to be able to unlock it. One is energy. You need to be able to create energy infrastructure that allows for rapid cooling or processing for you to be able to retain the quality and value of whatever commodity you're going to be producing. Secondly, farmers require access to fertilizers. Most people don't know there's been a ban of fertilizers going to the Northeast. So if you have a lot of farmers that are actually cultivating land, they are cultivating land with archaic technology of cow dung and the rest that cannot unlock the full value of their labor, which is discounted, to be able to give them maximum yield. And then finally is logistics. You need to be able to move agro commodities within Nigeria and outside Nigeria within the shortest fashion. These 3 things are possibly 80% of the challenges facing Nigerian agro commodities. We're in Abuja right now. It takes me 10 hours to be able to move product from Adama to Abuja within the same country. When you find out that within Vietnam and some other places, or within Europe, you're doing 2 hours within there. It tells you that the government has looked at logistics infrastructure and found a way to cut down agro-produce movement from the hinterland to the urban areas to export-driven models. The government needs to keenly repurpose its budget. Look, nobody is going to discount the fact that Nigeria is facing huge budgetary challenges and revenue challenges. And typically when you face revenue challenges, you need to look within and repurpose your budget to speak to your priorities. The one thing, like I said earlier, that it is ubiquitous to all Nigerians is that there is no state today that you will not realize that they have a food crop potential, they have a cash crop potential, and they have an innate thing that the people themselves are already cultivating. We do not need, we're blessed with so much, and as such, we do not specialize. The government needs to look at its budget, reprioritize itself, so that you can invest in logistics within the country and outside the country, invest in getting fertilizers cheaply to farmers, participating farmers, that can be able to improve their yield. And lastly, they need to really and keenly look at energy. You're either going to be, we know that they have LPS programs from government for livestock. We know about the SAPZ program by the AFDB and the Nigerian government. We have various programs trying to tackle the same problem. And as such, we are very much limiting ourselves from keenly focusing. If it's going to be the SAPZ, which I think is a very laudable program, which creates agro clusters in each of the participating states that all local agro food commodities can go into for further processing and distribution into the domestic market and external market, we need to look keenly into that and invest our limited resources to unlocking those value chains. We in Sebore have taken up this gauntlet. We are building an agro processing zone for Adamawa State. And within it, we are targeting cotton, we're targeting livestock, milk, we're targeting our cash crops, shea butter, and the rest. But I'm doing all of this as private sector. And it's almost like a proof of concept that we need to show Nigerians, look, Nigeria, we're in a very dire state. They keep telling us that, look, food insecurity is meeting everybody in their face. Food inflation is very real. People have seen this. I think as at last count, Nigeria's inflation is maybe 29% or 31%. 31% is completely unsustainable for any nation. And the first thing, you know, they say a hungry man is an angry man. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to look into the agro value chain, tackle food crops, tackle cash crops, because this is the one industry that we've seen can unlock value.
Indeed, indeed. Well said. My guest, Aminu Nyako, who is the Managing Director of Sebore Group, has spoken insightfully on how we can unlock a value chain within the Nigerian agricultural space. He has spoken in-depthly on how, you know, the Nigerian agricultural space can be a major contributor to the Nigeria's GDP moving forward. Thank you again for all the insight you have given to us this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
This is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the program. Join us on social media and let us hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts? What can be done differently from what we are currently doing? My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.